surprised more as he wonders if he is even a human. In contrast, the servants pick him up, as he still isn't aware of what happened to him. So he curses how useless his servants are, since he assumes that they did not help him put his suit on properly. So the lock suddenly popped open. Now embarrassed, they leave the scene. Meanwhile, other adventurers ignores them as they were busy talking about different subjects, such as the assassin-looking guy states that the Castle of Time is a great place to train, but he must say, not only are the people there annoying, the entrance fee is really expensive. The elf lady responds that she still doesn't understand why the guild would send all of them to drive out of here monsters. She could have handled this mission alone. The shaman-looking guy calls her Miss Ali Faye, in response that they shouldn't question the guild's decision too much. Also, they shouldn't ever underestimate their enemies. Meanwhile, the knight is chugging his alcohol, enjoying his drinking it. He was happy that this sure hits the spot, and he wonders what the liquor in the Castle of Time tastes like. The shaman calls him Sir Adrian, and asks him politely to think of his image for a bit, to which Adrian calls him Edmund and asks him why is he always so upright. They got Lord Eugene, the Dragon Knight, backing them up for this mission, with him on their side. What could possibly go wrong? Hearing this news made the assassin excited, since Lord Eugene is a super strong expert who used to be a part of the Sword Saint Guild, while Adrian is still convincing Edmund not to be so uptight, because their guild also has a lot of experts. Even Ely Faye became a B-rank combatant candidate after joining their guild for just a few days. But Edmund was not moved by his happy-go-lucky attitude, and now was agitated as he tells Adrian politely to mind his manners, and if only he was a little more disciplined and drank less alcohol, he would have been promoted to be ranked long ago. But as a happy-go-lucky person, he'd rather be a C rank for life than to do what Edmund said, as he chugs his alcohol again. Even without his eyes, you can see he is disappointed, as he ignores him and puts his attention towards Ely Faye, and asks her, why did she choose to join their guild? But the assassin responded that, it's obvious because their Walrus Ivory Guild is pretty strong. Edmund tells him that he might not know this, but as a member of Fae Tribe, Miss Ely Faye could have chosen to join the Spirit Forest, one of the 6 great guilds. The assassin asks if can all the members of the Fae Tribe join the guild that easily. Edmund responds that it is of course not easy to join that easily, but as he knows this, Miss Ely Faye is a genius ranger. She is more than qualified to join the guild, but Ely Faye expressed her scorn towards the Spirit Forest, as she explained that the guild simply doesn't catch her eyes, which her teammates knows that's a cap, so they were just silent and couldn't find a word to respond, and went awkwardly silent, while Ely Faye is thinking to herself that she will prove to everyone that even without his father's backing, she, Ely Faye, can still shine, and will forge her own path. Suddenly Adrian stands up, and he decides to not spoil the mood, so he shares his prized wine with everyone, which the shaman instantly says no. A few moments passed by, the train finally arrived to its destination, so everyone stepped out and went their way. Now Wazi's group is standing in front of a pole, looking for directions, while Wazi, staring at his system, and according to it they still have quite a way to go, but as long as they keep going like this should be the shortest path to the source volcano, as he points to where they should go. As they walk, Wazi is in deep thought, thinking to himself that the system said before that the seals are hidden in places with large energy concentrations. Then it shouldn't be too far-fetched to think maybe one of the seals is hidden in a volcano, and these two are going there for revenge, but he is only going there to look for a seal. Kage suddenly states that, since they are the ones taking the initiative to attack this time, they must make sure to not spare a single one of them. Now that they are ahead of Wazi, he instantly calls for Piggy. Since his mushroom body is too slow, he is thankful that Piggy is here. As he mounts to her, now they are back to their original duo, so he commands for them to run. Therefore she runs like a wind, but to Wazi's surprise, he was left behind, since Kage is holding him, as he asks what is he trying to do, and although he hates to admit this, Wazi is still his king. As such, he will be training him just as he did for the past few kings, which made him confused. But Kage clarifies that, if they want to take down those humans, just Bayu and him will be far from enough. So from now on, he will be teaching him how to fight properly. Wazi asks what kind of training, to which he answers that it is his hell on earth training, and now it officially begins. And before he could respond, Kage already grabbed him by the cap, while Bihaya tells him to relax, since Kage was also the teacher of the last king, so he can trust his training. while Piggy just had came back from realizing that Wazzy wasn't with her. A few moments pass by. The two ladies are now sunbathing, laying on a big mushroom cap, while the system reminds Wazzy that if his stamina points reach 0, he will enter an unconscious state, as Wazzy begs for Kage to permit him to take a rest, but he just got a bonk from him instead, and he asks how can he give up so quickly, and he's not allowed to stop until he passed out from exhaustion. Still, Wazzy tells him that he really can't go on much longer, but Kage repeats himself, saying that unless he faints from exhaustion, he is not allowed to stop, and also commands him to call him teacher, as Kage bonks him multiple times, to which Wazzy complies, while Kage smiles menacingly, as he thinks to himself that this is what Wazzy get for making him kneel down for so many hours. As long as he used the facade of training him, he can hit him as much as he wants even if he is the king. Wazzy suddenly transforms back to his monster form, as he runs out of SP, and enters an unconscious state, so Piggy comes down and picks him up, as she is concerned by what happened to her mushroom. So he looks at Kage and tells him that he cannot bully her mushroom like that. Still, Kage ignores her as he states that this level of combat prowess is far from enough, so he tells Bayu that she should also teach a thing or two to Piggy. At a later time, now they set up a camp. Wazzy opens his eyes and see Piggy is holding him, but it seems like he was just dreaming, as he tries to kiss Piggy, but in reality, Kage is the one holding him, telling him to wake up and got squeezed instead. Still half asleep, he shouts since his cute Piggy turned into an ugly monster, and jump out from Kage's grasp to retreat. Still confused, he asks what happened because all he can remember is he was in the middle of his training, and he asks where's Piggy and Bayu. But as he turns to his right, his questions were answered, as he sees the two of them are now soundly sleeping, sheltered by the huge cap they got. Kage tells him that he is noisy, and asks how can he be so weak, fainting after just a little training. Now he remembers his stamina points dropping to 0, and his head hurts. The system appears and tells him that it is because his stamina dropped to 0. He entered an unconscious state for 6 hours. This made him realize that he would be eaten alive if he fainted in the wild, so he must make sure never to let his stamina points drop to 0 if he is alone. Talking to the system, Kage asks what is he mumbling about, to which he answers that it is nothing. He just thought that he might have died if they weren't around. Kage tells him that there is no need to be so pessimistic. He has just started his training after all. Wazzy responds that it is his fault that he is not able to evolve. He initially thought that he would be able to get past the limit cap as a human and get stronger, but he was too rash. Now he is locked in the form of a low-ranking monster. No matter what he learns in the future, his form will still hold him back. Kage asks who on earth said he needs to evolve to grow stronger, which surprised Wazzy, since he believes that it is a common sense after all. Kage then adds that, who said low-ranking monsters couldn't become stronger? This confuses him even more, since that is also a common sense, but he suddenly exclaimed that he is an idiot to believe that, and tells him that his strength is not determined by what form he takes but by the determination of his heart. He can be strong as long as he is 100% determined. This just made Wazzy sigh, but he thanks Kage for trying to cheer him up. But if he were to become the Mushroom King like this, he would just drag everyone down. So Kage bonked him again, and tells him to watch carefully. Kage spits his leaf, and as it flew in the air, he swings his sword, slicing its stem into pieces. With this, Wazzy was amazed. So Kage asks what does he think, and was that strong? He answers that it is very strong, super strong, but Kage states that he is also Wazzy's so-called low-ranking monster. This surprised him, so he asks how's that possible? Therefore he looks at the distance, and answers his question, that it all started over 40 years ago. In the Mushroom Kingdom, a bunch of mushroom monster can be seen lining up. One of them hops in the front, and transforms into a needle mushroom, and gives the needles for the mushroom monsters to transform into a mushroom trooper. But amidst the crowd, one of them distinctly looked like Kage, is holding a flaccid needle, and as he gives his limp needle to the mushroom monster, it couldn't help but cry, since it didn't evolve into a trooper, making Kage a laughingstock by his mates. Now embarrassed, he runs from the scene, because as a needle mushroom he was not able to provide the other mushrooms with weapons, so in everyone's eyes, his existence was irrelevant. He was destined to be a weakling, until, one day, the humans once again invaded the Mushroom Kingdom, so the king commanded them to charge, facing the humans head-on, and amidst the crowd, Kage is holding his flaccid needle and is still determined to charge and fight the invaders, and as soon as he got close to a human, he stick his needle, but his attack was futile, since it wasn't hard enough to penetrate the adventurer, so he got kicked to the face instead. Still, his determination wasn't diminished, as he takes out another limp needle from him and charge at the adventurer again, but determination doesn't win battles, so he was easily stomped onto the ground, and he was being belittled by his opponent. But with his performance, the adventurer let his guard down, so before he could land his killing blow, he was easily knocked down by another mushroom. Then Kage looks at his savior and see that he is holding a katana, with a cool hat hiding his face. Suddenly the mysterious mushroom leaps and knock out the humans one by one. Seeing this happen with his own eyes, Kage can't help but be amazed by the mysterious mushroom. Meanwhile, several humans are pushing a cart, since the guild leaders said as long as they get all the wine to the front lines, they will be able to defeat all the mushrooms. So they did just that, and as it got closer to the mushrooms, a fire mage set it on fire, making it explode. But before they could ignite all of it, another mushroom emerged from the ground and extinguished all the fire. Still, the fire mage was determined to finish his mission, so he readies for another attack, but the mushroom was faster than him, as it cast a sand stream canceling his attacks. And with that, the other mushroom charged, and the adventurers now realize their guild leader's plan failed, so they retreat. Now that the humans are gone, they know that they won, and they are happy since they even got wine that the humans failed to ignite, and are now ready to party, while Kage is on the side looking sadly from a distance. At a later time, the wine is entirely empty, the party has completely ended, and now all the mushrooms, and even the king has completely passed out drunk, while Kage is still sitting from the side all alone. Suddenly a magic portal formed and an adventurer appeared. As it turns out, the young broccoli laughs as he saw his plan was a success. Who would have thought it'd be this easy to infiltrate the Mushroom Kingdom? As he takes out his staff, he wonders how does he get the Mushroom King to demonize, but he decided not to care. As long as he can complete this mission, he can inherit a part of Golem's power. But suddenly he felt an attack on his legs, as he turns his eyes to look at Kage, determined to defend his king, but he was easily knocked out by Broccoli. Still determined, Kage obtained a new ability, speech. Now he could talk, as he tells Broccoli that he won't let him hurt the king. But Broccoli was ruthless, as he didn't hesitate to approach him and was ready to kill him quickly. But luckily, his attack was blocked by the mysterious mushroom from the battle earlier. But Kage already sustained huge amount of damage, so he fainted on the spot. A handful of minutes later, Kage regained consciousness and flipped over to see what is happening. Now a sword master has completely overpowered Broccoli, and he is sitting on the ground completely injured. Broccoli gritted his teeth and calls the man in front of him, the Sword Saint, and asks him what his problem about him attacking the Mushroom Kingdom. But the Sword Saint didn't answer his questions. Instead, he just tells Broccoli that he has indeed fallen, since he knows that he has been contacting the followers of the demon god Golem. Although he doesn't know Broccoli's goal here in the Mushroom Kingdom, it must be because he has made a deal with Golem's followers. This made Broccoli wonder how did he find out. But the Sword Saint swung his sword and tells him that his desire for power has clouded his eyes, and he will never allow the demon god to return. So he called him old friend and said his goodbyes. But before he could strike, Broccoli takes out an absolute contract scroll, and Broccoli says that he knows his mistakes, and for old time's sake, he pleads to spare his life. Then he swears on this absolute contract scroll that he will immediately disband his guild and never leave the starter village again. Otherwise, he will lose all his magic power and all the strength in his body. So he retracts his attack, only cutting his hair and his staff, and he takes the contract. As he leaves, he tells him to not ever dare to think of doing anything evil again. At the same time, Kage sees all this happen with his own eyes, and even the Sword Saint transforms back into a mushroom, but he lost his consciousness again. Kage suddenly opens his eyes and gets up, as he wonders what happened to his king and everyone else, so he stands up to look for answers. Arriving at the place, he was delighted that everyone was all right, but to his surprise, the mysterious mushroom was beside him. As he acknowledges him since he didn't back down even in the face of an unbeatable opponent to protect his family, so he tells him that he is a pretty good kid. Kage noticed his injuries was bandaged up, so he realized he must be the one who saved him. And when the mysterious mushroom was about to leave, Kage kneels in front of him. The mysterious mushroom asks what is he doing, to which he calls him benefactor, and answers that he doesn't know what mushroom species the mysterious mushroom is, but he also doesn't know if he will ever evolve into something as strong as him. So he asks him to teach him the way of the sword, because he wants to be as strong as him. The mysterious mushroom asks why does he want to get stronger, to which he answered with determination in his eyes, so that he can protect this place. So the mysterious mushroom tells him that his swordsmanship training is very harsh, and asks him if does he think he can handle it, to which he answers absolutely. After hearing his backstory, Wazi is still looking at Kage, which bothers him, so he asks what is his problem, to which Wazi asks if it's that all, and how he can stop there. What about his training arc? Because they are just getting to the good part. Kage asks what's there to talk about. In any way he has already thought him the training, which Wazi was confused and asked when has he ever thought him, other than nearly causing him to die from exhaustion. But before he could finish his statement, Kage proudly claims that it is exactly what it is, and that's the way to become stronger, to train to the point of nearly dying from exhaustion. Then once he has recovered, he do it again, day after day after day. This statement made him think about a popular manga he saw before. So Wazi just ignores him, and calls out to his system, and asks if can he, a mushroom monster, really get stronger by repeatedly pushing his body to the limit. It answers him that it is indeed possible to increase his attributes by training his body. So he opens his attribute panel to look at his stats, and to his surprise, his attributes went up. Still, his level stayed the same, but he only got 1 point of attack and 10 points of mana and HP. Even after training to the point of exhaustion, he noticed that this is a little inefficient. The system tells him that the closer he is to his limit, the more his attributes will increase. Still, it does not recommend him to train in such a fashion. The efficiency is too low, and he will be very vulnerable in his unconscious state. So he asked if there is another way to help him get stronger, to which the answer is no. Kage then asks Wazi to stop talking to himself over there, and he is telling him that as long as he can make it past the first bottleneck, he will get a lot stronger. So Wazi asks how long did it take him to finish the training, which he answered by raising his 5 fingers. Wazi assumes that he meant 5 months, to which he clarifies that it is 5 years, shocking him completely, as Kage adds that, although it is a little unpleasant to hear, needle mushrooms like him are still stronger than the basic mushroom monster. So in Wazi's case, it would take him 10 years, which made him even more surprised. But he clarifies that would be the case under normal circumstances. However, he has the blessings of the king's heritage, so it would be much faster. The previous Mushroom King only took 1 year to finish his training, and, of course, what they were doing right now was simply breaking down the limit of his body. He still needed to teach him swordsmanship after that, and that would take quite some time as well. Hearing all this training made Wazi sigh, as he lies on the ground, since he knows that Golem's apostle won't just sit there and wait for him to get stronger. But then he remembers what the system said to him just now. The closer he is to his limit, the higher the increase in his attributes. Therefore it clicks to him, while Kage is still looking at the distance and talking to him, saying that he will probably train him and not let that kind of tragedy happen again. But he noticed Wazi was not listening to him, so he asked what is he doing, but Wazi just ignored him and went on his way, as he calls him uncle and explained to him that he suddenly remembered that he had something to do, to which he says that he already told him to call him master not uncle. Still, instead of beating it to him now, he decides to just train him even harder tomorrow, while he puts down his hat and sword, and as he looks at it, he was suddenly in a daze, as he remembers the past where he is with his master, and the happy memories that comes with it, but also the bad ones, as he also remembers that his master also killed the previous king, since the previous king was also turned into a demonic fallen mushroom king. A painful memory is just buried deep in his heart, so he just closes his eyes. Wazi started his training arc, but he is discouraged by how slow his improvement is, so Kage tells him his backstory. However, he was still demotivated, so he asked the system for advice. Now, with newfound information, he realized what to do, and now on to the next part. In a pond full of glowing eyes, swamp fishmen enjoy their time there and are playing around the waters. Suddenly, a Golem's apostle appears above them, and it takes out the bell. As soon as he rings it, the swamp fishmen becomes enraged and went rabid, as they attack each other like they own each other's money. Now the pond is in chaos, while the apostle is still ringing his bell. A few moments pass by. A single fishman survives the onslaught. Therefore, the apostle rings his bell again, giving it immense power, so its body exponentially grows, and it begins to mutate into a different entity entirely, as it grows horns, and became more demonic-like. Still, it wasn't enough, so after it was done transforming, it ate all the bodies it could get, and absorbed all of them, making it more powerful than what it previously was. After assimilating, it exited the pond and went straight to a village. Now that the apostle successfully created an abomination, he went on his way and vanished. Meanwhile, it is the second day of Wazi's training arc, and when the sunlight hits Piggy, she wakes up with full energy and goes down to look around at her surroundings. However, she couldn't see Wazi anywhere, so she called out to Kage, but he was still in a daze. So, Bayu picked Piggy up and asked where's Wazi for her, to which he responded, that brat was doing something the entire night, as he pointed to the haystack, to tell them Wazi harvested that all. At the same time Wazi emerged from it, as he thinks that should be enough, and he is so tired right now. With a 1 SP left on him, he was still determined to do the last step, so he takes out a mushroom bowl from his inventory, pushes under the haystack, and he takes out a live slime. He squeezes the slime for its juice. After he is done using it, he tosses it back into his inventory, and without time to waste, he immediately sits on the juice and uses decompose to its full power. This surprises both of the generals, as Bayu feels a powerful magical fluctuation, so she concludes that it must be a king-level ability, and Kage couldn't believe Wazi can even perform such a thing. Wazi is decomposing the haystack faster than before. After he completely decomposed a stack of herbal grass, he gained 12,500 experience points. Still, he wasn't done, so he inhales a huge amount of air to vomit what he absorbed and make a super potion. Drinking this would instantly cure all status conditions, and with a sweet and mushroomy flavor. The system congratulates him for successfully concocting the super potion and rewarding him with a new level 6 ability called potion crafting. Wazi collapsed on the ground because he is too exhausted and too tired to even speak, but Piggy appears to the rescue and goes over to him. So Wazi tells her to help him and point towards the super potion he just made. So without hesitation she went over to it and pick it up, which Wazi signals a job well done. So she opens the potions, which Wazi was ecstatic to drink it, as he points towards his mouth. So Piggy couldn't misunderstand, which Piggy nods furiously and claims she understood. So without hesitations, she gulps down the super potions to its last drop, which Wazi couldn't believe what he saw. But Piggy is happy to do her job, while Wazi's soul left his body. Suddenly, Piggy felt immense energy flowing inside of her, and her body was trembling because of it. An immense aura came out from her, and now she received a drastic increase in vitality, which the limit had already been reached. She levels up a few times, and her digestion has also leveled up 2 times. And because of this, she obtained 2 new abilities called Endless Vitality and an Enhanced Physique, and she is looking like she is ready to kill a Chimera Ant King guard if she encounters one. Meanwhile, Wazi's soul has left this world, as he dries up from where he lies, and now his SP reached 0, and entered an unconscious state again. 3 days later, Bayu and Piggy are sitting beside a river, and is meditating under a shade, which Piggy is clearly having a hard time concentrating, as she keeps on looking at her surroundings, which Bayu notices what she is doing. Piggy looks where Wazi is, and hops down from the platform she is sitting on, to go to Wazi. Still, Bayu has other plans for her, so she shoots Piggy, launching a net to wrap her like a ball ham, which she tries to escape from it by transforming back into her human form, and telling Bayu to release her. Bayu approaches her, and acknowledges Piggy's ability to speak has improved, but her focus is still lacking, so she strictly tells Piggy for her to understand that she will continue her training with her, to which Piggy complies. Meanwhile, Wazi is training hard with Kage, as Kage is motivating him like a master should, while he tells Wazi that he is still too slow, and he has only been pulling for a day. So Kage asks him if he is going to slack off again, while Wazi is gasping for air, since he has only 1 SP left again. At the same time he is thinking that he was unconscious for a day, and decompose also failed once. Altogether, he wasted 3 days in an instant, but at least he manages to successfully create another super potion. so when his SP reached 0 and was about to enter an unconscious state, he drinks it up, energizing him completely and making his SP return to 100. With this he runs like he never run before, even launching Kage from his seat, to which Kage was impressed, since he thought Wazi was gonna faint again, so he acknowledges that he is improving faster than he expected. Wazi proudly explained that it is because of the potion he made after gathering thousands of herbs, but Kage wasn't listening, as he laughed joyfully and takes all the credit, saying that it must be because he is a great teacher, that he has actually already learned to properly use his strength, to which Wazi agrees sarcastically. Wazi then asks Kage for advice if his assumptions were right, in gaining more if he was closer to his limit, but Kage shouts at him instead, and tells him if he has the energy to think, he should just use it to pull harder. So Wazi did what he was told, and as he was pulling the cart, Kage explained to him since he must know that because of their species barrier, low-ranking demons need to exert 10 times the effort to achieve the same result as a high-ranking demon, so there's absolutely no time to be lazy. Only after they achieve multiple breakthroughs can they stand toe-to-toe against a high-ranking demon, which Wazi responds that he thought so too, but he was bonked instead by Kage, so he asks why he hit him. He wasn't slacking, to which Kage asks him if he thinks this little bit of improvement is enough, because he believes it is about time he increased the difficulty and strike at him, so Wazi must keep pulling the cart while dodging his attacks. Time passed by so fast, but they didn't let it waste a single moment, as they kept on training themselves to be better and increase the difficulty with each passing day. But as the challenges got difficult, their progress and strength increased with it. Now Wazi is now buffed as he kept on pulling heavy things, while Piggy is now more focused than ever before since she kept meditating while listening to Nickelback. But still, this wasn't enough for Wazi, so even when the others were resting, he was still training. The 20th day arrived, and Piggy was in her battle stance, as she was facing a giant stone golem. For her test, with Bayu's go signal, she went to attack first. The stone golem uses a level 10 hardening to receive Piggy's attack head-on, so when Piggy lands her Piggy punch, the golem wasn't phased, and it takes its chance to counter-attack, knocking Piggy to a boulder. Now that Piggy has taken damage, Bayu advises her to not just keep using brute force, since there are plenty of beings with strength greater than her, so she has to focus and find the opponent's weak spots, to which she responds that she understood. As she stands up, she closes her eyes. This made her wild instinct ability to level up. The golem launches multiple strikes at her, but she easily dodges it one after the other, and as she was in the air, she sensed the golem's weak spots, so to not waste any more energy, she swiftly used Piggy Punch to attack the golem on all its weak spots. The golem still has activated the level 10 hardening, so it manages to launch a counter-attack, but its attack didn't reach Piggy as it shattered to pieces. Now she finally completed her test. She calls Bayu as her big sis, as she happily states that she did it, so she asks if she can go play with Mushroom now, to which Bayu permits her to go, while she is thinking to herself that, although Piggy is a little childish, her learning ability isn't bad at all. As a companion of the king, this little Piggy is a rare talent. Meanwhile, Kage expresses his scorn, as he states that those potions are nothing but external items, and he has got to rely on hard work if you want to get stronger, while Wazi is gasping for air, and is completely dehydrated, and his super potions is now empty. In contrast, he states that he still can endure it, but his SP reaches 0, and he collapses on the floor. Still, Kage acknowledges his hard work, but Wazi still reaches his limits, so he decides to end today's training. Suddenly Wazi is covered with a glowing aura, and light fills the place. As Wazi successfully breaks through, the system congratulates him for that, and informs him that his attribute growth rate has been increased, and he obtained 80,000 experience points, so he levels up. Wazi was amazed how he feels like his whole body's lighter, while Kage is shocked beyond belief, since he couldn't believe Wazi breakthrough, but it has only been less than a month. Wazi proudly states that it is exactly as he expected. Kage asks what does he mean, to which Wazi tells him that it is just like what he said about having a breakthrough layer by layer, and that he just added a clever little trick to the training for breaking through. He did the harsh training normally, but whenever he was about to faint, he simply took a sip of his potion, so this allowed him to keep accumulating momentum by repeatedly reaching his limit, until he couldn't hold on any longer, finally unleashing it all in one instant. and that is his little trick. The closer he is to his limit, the more significant the improvement. This amazed Piggy as she supported whatever Wazzy said, and Bayu acknowledged that was very smart of him, but he will need enough of that potion on his neck before it can be accomplished. On the other hand, Kage states that he doesn't understand a word he is saying, but since he has broken through, then it is about time they start the real training, and he tells Wazzy not to get cocky, since the training will only get harder from now on, and it is time they do some combat training, which Wazzy isn't so thrilled about, as he thought breaking through is the last step, but it turns out, it is just the start. Hi, you're watching Martial Reader. In the previous chapter, Wazzy uses his super potion at the last second, in order for him to train without passing out. Still, his supply of super potions isn't enough, so he collapses, but to their surprise, he breaks through. Now, Kage tells him it is about time to start the real training, so Wazzy begins his combat training. Now on to the next part. In the habitat of the mantis, several blade mantis can be seen knocked out, and now Wazzy is facing another mantis in one-on-one battle. Wazzy uses his mushroom sword dance, while the mantis uses his instant blade draw, and as they clash their abilities, Wazzy receives a damage on his face. In contrast, the senior blade mantis lost. With this outcome, Piggy celebrated Wazzy's win, while the two generals stayed calm. Wazzy then talks to Kage, asking if he saw that, and boasts that his combat techniques are pretty good, to which Kage calls him an idiot, because that was just the warm-up. Wazzy was confused, so Kage tells him that, in front of real experts, underestimating his opponents for a single moment can lead to his death. Suddenly he felt something. A blade was suddenly unsheathed. Luckily he blocked it in the nick of time, but it knocked him back. Now in front of him is a level 78 Grandmaster Blade Mantis. When a Blade Mantis reaches the peak of the way of the sword, it will evolve into a Grandmaster Blade Mantis. After evolving, it will become the sword teacher for all the Blade Mantis in its territory, and if two Blade Mantis Grandmasters meet, they will duel to the death. Wazzy then noticed, for a level 78 monster, its offensive attributes are too strong. Kage responds that it is just a minor difference in rank, and as a king, he should at least be able to do this much. Wazzy tells him that even after he fully break through, his attributes aren't a match for this thing, but the Grandmaster isn't playing around, as it leaps to Wazzy while he was still talking, and it uses a Grandmaster level blade cleave on him. At a later time, they have set up a camp to rest, and Piggy is busy being helpful, stacking herbs, while Wazzy is badly injured. He then tells them that was way too hard, so he asks if can't they find an opponent that at his level. Kage replies that, if it was someone else, yes, but not him. This confuses Wazzy, so he asks why, to which Bayu responds that it is because he is training to become a king. Only by fighting opponents of a higher level can he show his full potential. Then Kage adds that, among the humans that attacked the Mushroom Kingdom back then, many of them were of a higher level, but all of them were beaten back by the previous king anyway, all except the last one. The generals then tell him that there are two areas he needs to improve on right now. First, there are a lot of excessive movements in his sword play. Second, he needs to learn how to bring out the true strength of his weapon, the mushroom rapier. Wazzy was clueless, so he asked how, to which Kage explained to Wazzy that the mushroom rapier is the legacy weapon of the Mushroom Kings. It will appear by itself in front of the king through miraculous ways. Although he is not sure how he got his hands on it, he can tell that Wazzy is not fully compatible with it yet, and he is yet to find a combat style unique to himself. This confuses him more, since he believes that it is just a normal sword. Other than being unbreakable, it doesn't have any other abilities. Meanwhile, Piggy is still busy stacking herbal stems in the background. Bayu then states that the late king's rapier was formed from 1,000 absorbing mushrooms. That's why it has the ability to absorb and release energy. This made Wazzy realize that no wonder why the level 60 Mushroom King could beat that level 69 warrior back then. It turns out that his weapon had a unique ability, and with this, he assumes that all he has to do is learn how to make his mushroom rapier absorb and spit out energy, which he earned a bonk to the head for being a dumbass. Wazzy asks Kage why he hit him. He is a patient, to which Kage asks him if he was even listening. Then Bayu explains that throughout history, all the mushroom rapiers were unique. Their attributes are based on the king wielding them, so each king has a different fighting style. So she advises Wazzy to think carefully. Then she asks how did he get his mushroom rapier. He answers that it came from a tree branch. Kage is shocked to hear what Wazi just said, so this made him facepalm, as he sigh, since he believes it is over, and they are doomed. In contrast, Wazi picks up his sword and remembers something, but before he can say it, his wounds open up again, and all of his mushroom juices come out from him. The next day, in front of the Temple of the Mantis, the Grandmaster Blade Mantis is sitting all alone meditating, and Wazi is in his battle stance to challenge it again. So Wazi charged at the Mantis, which it opens its eyes as Wazi got closer, and it knocked him to the ground. Kage sighed as he saw Wazi getting his ass handed to him again, but Wazi wasn't done, so he went for another attack, but the Grandmaster Mantis just cleaves through him again. Therefore Bayu declares that Wazi failed. However, Wazi's fighting spirit isn't diminished as he asks to try again, and went to charge at the Grandmaster Mantis for another round. And as their attack clashed, and the Grandmaster Mantis confidently put his sword back in its sheath, but he was surprised to see Wazi is still standing. In contrast, Wazi was now more confident as he claimed that he finally saw the Grandmaster Mantis's movements, and his Sage Mode mastery has increased from level 7 to level 8, to which Kage is proud that there's little improvement, but that doesn't mean he can defeat the Grandmaster Mantis now, as he was knocked to the ground again. This made him realize that seeing its movements aren't enough. It's useless if his body can't keep up. Kage then points out to Wazi that he has gotten rid of a lot of excess movements, but it is still lacking, and if he can't win against something of this level, then what will happen when he faces the Eye of the Firebane Guild? Bayu tells Wazi that he has a talent, since he was able to improve so much in less than a month, so she advises him to try his best to activate the special ability of his mushroom rapier. But Wazi is visibly frustrated, because he really doesn't know what's the special ability of his sword, but he's still charged to attack, and as they fight, Bayu reminds him that he has the king's heritage, and he is the only one who can do it, so she advises him to recall how his sword was formed. This leads him to more questions than answers, as he asks himself how a branch of the divine tree transformed into the mushroom rapier, and what's his connection with it, while Kage assumes that, as a mushroom king, Wazi doesn't even look like a mushroom, so maybe that is why he can't use his sword. But suddenly something clicks inside of Wazi's brain. As he heard these words from Kage, he finally realizes something. When he uses Mushroom Bash, while in his human form, it turns into an enhancement of his legs that allows him to dash and jump with incredible power. When in monster form, he is using the abilities of a monster, but as a human, his abilities will change into something suitable for a human to use. Strictly speaking, it is no longer an ability, but mushroom magic. Although Piggy and Aunt Bayu can also transform between the two forms, he is different from them. Using the mushroom rapier, he can use it to freely change his abilities between the two forms. This will allow him to combine his mushroom abilities and mushroom magic into one. What's more, that tree branch originally had the ability to accumulate power. With that, he could store magic power and use it to dish out an extra powerful attack or replenish his own. Meanwhile, Kage is amazed at how Wazi is utilizing his ability to transform between human and monster forms to throw off the Blade Mantis Grandmaster's rhythm, and Bayu acknowledges that Wazi is closer to unlocking his full potential, while Wazi just obtained a new profession called Magic Swordsman. On the other hand, the Grandmaster Blade Mantis is now serious, so it uses its ability called Oscillation. Now the speed of it greatly increased. The two of them both charged at the same time, and at the speed which only a few can reach. The Mantis strikes, but Wazi dodges it, and now he is behind the Mantis, so he didn't waste his opportunity to attack it. But now the Mantis is in rage, as it counter-attack with multiple strikes, which Wazi was able to dodge, utilizing his ability to transform. Then he leaps towards the Mantis and uses Spore Explosion to hide his whereabouts. But the Mantis learned from his mistakes, so he waits for Wazi to appear. So when Wazi emerged from the clouds of Spore to attack it, the Mantis can now clearly see Wazi. So without hesitations it separates Wazi's head from his body, which shocked the three immensely. Unexpectedly, multiple of Spore clone Wazi emerged from the Spore clouds. This confuses both Piggy and Kage as they asks what happened, while the multiple Spore clone Wazi uses their abilities simultaneously and confused the Blade Mantis. Now that the Mantis was overwhelmed by the multiple clones in front of it, it just decided to cleave its way to lessen the clones, but it wasn't enough. as Wazi proudly claims that this is his new ability, and it is called the Mushroom King's Regal Spore, and uses fourfold mushroom sword dance, and successfully strike the Grandmaster Mantis, completely defeating it. After that, his spore clones vanished, and the system congratulated him for defeating an elite monster, and he has received 15,000 experience points, and he increased his heritage ability, Regal Spore, to level 10. This outcome makes him happy, making him blush. At the same time, Piggy is happy for him. Then Bayu states that every cloud has a silver lining. The Regal Spore can only be used to spawn the most basic mushroom monster, but because Wazi's form is also locked to that form, those spawns can also transform into a human. He is likely the only Mushroom King that could do this. So, she concludes that the Mushroom Tribe is in good hands, which Kage 100% agrees with her. A few moments pass by. The Blade Mantis tribe bows as a sign of respect. As Wazi's group leaves the place, Wazi just discovered that Kage and the Grandmaster Mantis know each other, to which Kage tells him that they met when his master and him was training in the Tempest Grasslands, and the Grandmaster Mantis hadn't evolved at that time. Then he tells Wazi that it is enough of talking and orders him to move faster. Bayu was just informed that Wazi has an ability that shows him a map, so she asks Wazi, how far is the source volcano from their location? Therefore, Wazi looks at his map and tells them that they are still quite far away. Based on their speed so far, it will take them about 6 more days, to which Bayu responds that it is too slow, and Kage shouts at Wazi as he asks how can he still run at the same speed. That is the previous him. He has already improved so much, so Kage decided that he has only 3 days to reach the source volcano, which Wazi realizes what Kage is saying is right. He is stronger now, and with his improvement, Piggy, Bayu, and Kage might be able to snatch a tablet from Golem's apostles. So with this, he happily picked up the cart and went on their way. The closer they got to their destination, the more bandits and ferocious monsters appeared, but Piggy and Wazi were able to beat them back without any problem. And now, Wazi is at level 62, and Piggy is at level 60, and they are more powerful than ever before. A few moments pass by. The system reminds them that they have a mission yet to be turned in, and a gold inn is nearby, so it asks them if they would like to visit the nearby gold inn, to which they decide to go, since it is just on the way. Inside the gold inn, Wazi tells them that it will be quick, so he asks them to sit down first, and to promise not to cause trouble, to which Kage tells him to just do that and reminds him not to forget to ask for information about their targets. Without wasting time, Wazi went over to the owner and turned in a mission. Hence, the owner looks at the mission information and see that all the mission takers have completely disappeared. No one has yet come to collect the bounty, as he is the only one to collect the bounty after their designated collection time. He will be given the entire reward. After receiving it, he is reminded about Muscle Uncle, so he feels sad, but Piggy is with him, so she comforts him, which he appreciates. The owner then shows some of the new missions, so he gladly looks at it. However, he is surprised to see there are so many missions to kill monsters attacking cities. Moreover, all of them are high difficulty missions. The owner explained that there had been a sudden increase in unknown and vicious monsters in the Tempest Grasslands. They have destroyed many towns. Although the Sword Saint Guild has already sent out members to slay these monsters, there are too many incidents too far apart for them to handle everything in time. So, some towns are still in danger. He reminds Wazi that a monster that can destroy an entire town is not to be trifled with. He can look at all the adventurers here and see for himself. Even the 6 great guilds have suffered casualties. Wazi states that he originally planned on taking a mission on the way, but he thinks it is better to avoid unnecessary trouble. Suddenly Kage appeared beside Wazi and called him an idiot, and asked him what is he afraid of, and no matter how strong those monsters are, can they be stronger than the enemies they would face? So he told Wazi to just take it as the next part of his training, to which Wazi realized what Kage is saying is right, since he is not the same as before. Worst comes to worst, there is also Bayu and Kage with him. With this he is now confident to see just how difficult an S-ranked mission is. Therefore he asked the owner, what is the monster closest to the route leading to the source volcano? The owner responds that the closest monster on that route should be mission number 3, and the difficulty is A rank. But before he could finish what he is saying, Wazi accepts the mission. Then Adrian drunkenly approaches Wazi from behind, surprising both Wazzy and Piggy, while he tells Wazzy that they have also taken that mission, and asks him to come with them, to which Wazzy politely refuses, but Adrian is so drunk to understand personal space, and keeps pestering Wazzy, as Adrian tells him that they are also from the Walrus Ivory Guild and they are very strong, but luckily Adrian had too much to drink, so he collapses on the spot. So his guildmates picked him up, and apologized to Wazzy's group for Adrian's behavior, but suddenly Elifay appeared in front of them, and she stated that, on the way here, they went to all the places that were being attacked by these unknown monsters, although the Sword Saint Guild members had already cleared the battlefield, but judging from the traces left and the amount of destruction, those unknown monsters are no joke, and as she was talking, Wazzy notices her ears. He concludes that she is from the Fey tribe, so he uses appraisal on her. Now he sees that she is only a level 33 spirit archer, while Elifay still has the audacity to suggest that they should forget about going there, and to not overestimate themselves, otherwise, they will only be heading towards their own death. Wazzy thanks her for the reminder, while he was thinking to himself that this is his first time meeting someone from the Fey tribe. However, her level is too low, but the way she talks and the fact that she is part of a big guild made Wazzy assume that she is just hiding her strength. Meanwhile, Elifay's words trigger Kage, so he tells her that he will cut her down, and then they will see who is overestimating themselves, to which Wazzy tries to defuse the situation, but Bayu steps up and tells them to let her handle this. So Bayu went over to Elifay and called her little girl, as she states that, since she is a member of that arrogant Fey tribe, then her profession must be some type of ranger. As it so happens, she is somewhat of a sharpshooter herself, and when Bayu is close enough to Elifay, she asks her if she dares to have a match with her, to which Elifay replies that she doesn't scare her. Suddenly a spear guy appears in the scene and asks Elifay not to cause trouble, since they are about to set out. He asks her to just focus on the mission at hand, to which Elifay is annoyed by his presence. The spear guy introduced himself to be a combat instructor of the Walrus Ivory Guild, and his name is Eugene Gate. He is also Elifay's team leader, so he explained that she's got a sharp tongue, but she does not mean anything bad. As her instructor, he apologized in her stead, but suddenly he noticed Bayu's beauty and was mesmerized by her, so he kneels on one knee and rephrases what he said, and since their destination is the same, he asks politely to allow him to escort Bayu and calls her beautiful miss, to which Bayu coldly tells him to scram. By her instant rejection, he now likes her even more. Elifay calls him an idiot and tells him that she won't waste any more time here, as she leaves the scene. So he stands up, and since they are all headed to Lift Station Town, he will see Bayu again, and he will be sure to wow her with his valiant figure in battle in their next meeting. It won't be too late to accept him then. So, he says his farewell and went on his way. As Eugene is leaving, Bayu asks if Wazzy also detects it, to which he responds that he senses an aura of a monster on his body. Kage states that it is not just any monster, it is a dragon. Bayu adds that being able to tame a dragon is not a small feat. That person is anything but weak. Now Wazzy knows he is a legendary dragon knight. Speaking of which, he doesn't think he has ever met a monster of the dragon species yet. Kage responds, so what if it's a dragon? The last time one of those tried to attack the Mushroom Kingdom, he made it into a side dish for his alcohol. Bayu tells them that they should also get going, otherwise, Wazzy's mission target might get stolen by them, which Wazzy was excited about, since he kinda wants to see a dragon knight in action. A few moments passed by. They were now inside the Lift Station Town, and people were running around in panic. Bayu couldn't believe a single monster had done this to a human town. With no time to waste, they decided to go to where the battle is, while Piggy and Wazzy feel an uncomfortable magic fluctuation emanating from that direction. After they arrive at the scene, Bayu asks Wazzy to switch to his monster form, to not expose their identities for now. She commands them to try to find a higher vantage point, and she asks Kage to come with them too. Wazzy asks if it is a good idea since Kage can't transform after all, which Kage didn't like to hear. Still, they traveled together anyway. Meanwhile, the monster attacks the adventurers with an energy beam, but it was deflected by Adrian with his Holy Bastion skill, and redirected to itself, blowing its head off, so one of the faces on its waist withers away, and the monster regenerates. But before it could attack again, Ilifei follows up with Arrow Dance of the Butterfly's skill, hitting several magic arrows into its chest, so another face withers away. The assassin follows up with double rotating slash, but his attacks weren't effective, and his enchanted purple viper daggers were dulled. Now the monster got its chance to retaliate, so it spits acidic vomit towards the assassin, but it was nullified by a fire magic flame wall by Edmund. Then he states that this monster seems to be some kind of fish species. It has a thick layer of mucus covering its scales, which allows it to mitigate physical damage. If they want to damage it, all they gotta do is burn off all the mucus. So he cast a firewall that burned the monster. Now it is vulnerable to physical attacks and is weakened. A dragon pulse ability pierced its heart. Now Eugene appears at the scene, riding a dragon, and without hesitation, he descends and uses Dragon Soul Spear Strike to end the monster. The townspeople were amazed and celebrated, since they believed the monster was now defeated. While from the rooftop, Wazi was amazed to see the fierce attack of the Dragon Knight, but Kage was disappointed, since he thought Eugene tamed a powerful dragon, but it turned out it is just a common one, while Bayu states that it was too flashy. Humans love to waste their magic power on this sort of flashy yet inefficient attack. At the same time, the other adventurers celebrate their victory as they assume that their job is finished. Edmund praises Lord Eugene, worthy of being a dragon knight, while Ilifei boasts that she will surpass Eugene very soon. But their fight is far from over, as the spear of Eugene was thrown in front of them, and when they look up, they saw Eugene is being entangled by the tentacles of the monster, while his magic power is being drained. In a pinch, he calls for his dragon, so it formed a fire in its mouth to attack, but it got pierced instead. But the monster's attack wasn't finished, as its tentacles slashes downwards, slicing the dragon in half. Shock can be seen on Eugene's face. At the same time, the other adventurers launched their powerful attack to help Eugene escape, which also made things hard for them to see, as dust covered the place. Still, Adrian felt something was coming over, so he stepped forward to block the attack, but the monster is now more powerful than ever before. Therefore it pierces his shield, killing both Adrian and the assassin. Adrian's last words are to warn his guildmates to run and save themselves, but Ilifei was too shocked to even move, so Edmund went to her and cast his magic barrier to deflect the attack, but the monster was too much for them to handle, so the barrier breaks, and both of them were knocked out.